I love a group that recognizes a random picture and knows exactly where it's from. Few days shy of 50, and when I ask my super goth 13-year-old what they're listening to, they tell me it's a band I probably don't know called The Cure. The 80s on Netflix versus the 80s in real life. As a very old person, I feel qualified to say that most modern media set in the 80s fails to capture how brown everything was. I bet that'd be a heck of a collector's item now. Things that no longer interest me. Driving at night. Leaving the house at night. Driving in the winter. Leaving the house in the winter. Driving. Leaving the house. Who had school and a portable? Why were portable classrooms even a thing? Every elementary school had these. Who else grew up learning to question authority from this character? Abandoned malls should be made into Gen X retirement communities. Needs to be 3 stories tall. Food court, movie theater, arcade, Orange Julius, hot dog on a stick, and skateboard ramps. Us Gen Xers have taken a lot, but you have to admit our sneering distrust of everything has turned out to be 100% correct. That is absolutely true. I think we just need to accept that the 90s was the peak of humanity. Building forts. Admit it. You missed doing it. Reject the man cave. Return to the home office. One disorienting thing about getting older that nobody tells you about is how weird it feels to get a really passionate, extremely wrong lecture from a much younger person about verifiable historical events you can personally remember pretty well. This younger generation loves the history that they make up, but they hate it when someone confronts them with facts. Remember when Pizza Hut pan pizzas were basically a culinary delicacy? They'd bring them out in a real skillet that was piping at about 700 degrees Fahrenheit right as your third song kicked in on the jukebox after you played a game of Galaga. We were kings. I had a comment on one of my previous Gen X videos from the prop lady. You forgot to show how wood paneling was on everything, even the cars. Your basement was wood paneled, your Atari was wood paneled, your TV was wood paneled. If they could have made wood paneling soft, they would have made your clothing wood paneled. And you're absolutely right. Right here's a very good example of the standard living room as well as the wood paneling TV. I don't know why this was such a thing, but every house you went into had wood paneling. But wood paneling wasn't all bad. It was basically no maintenance and you didn't have to worry about painting it. Speaking of wood-paneled cars, here's a standard issue wood-paneled Jeep Grand Wagoneer. You saw wood paneling on a lot of these, station wagons, and a lot of other vehicles. I'm a Gen Xer, so I adapt to new technology like a millennial, but get angry about it like a boomer. I feel like Generation X doesn't get enough credit for being the only group of people to ever know how to set the clock on a VCR. I had no idea that Blockbuster still has a Twitter account. A friendly reminder that when you used to rent videos from us, we didn't care who you shared it with, as long as you returned it on time. Once again, how the 80s is portrayed today versus the 80s in real life. Wood paneling everywhere, and everything was brown. This is pretty much what every house you walked into looked like. Kids' haircuts today. Haircuts when I was a kid. Now that Gen X is old and falling apart, REM should remake Everybody Hurts for an ibuprofen ad. Your mom thought you were riding your bike around the block for 8 hours, but in that time you went 5 miles away, explored an abandoned house, jumped over some garage roofs, attempted a Ouija board, built a den in the woods, and made your own fire. Who remembers unfolding the cassette insert to read the lyrics? How many of you printed off your own custom cassette inserts so that you could list the songs on that mixtape because you recorded it off the radio? Peak Gen X, riding your bike down the middle of the street, standing on the banana seat with no helmet. My son has to play my old games from when I was his age. What was old is new again. My grandfather's brother, age 71, asked me to install Photoshop on his computer. He just sent me this. That's his wife. This is what my family does for fun. They put firecrackers inside bouncy balls and they throw them. They bounce in unpredictable directions and explode in an unpredictable place. Remembering phone numbers. That's definitely become a thing of the past. I can barely remember my own number when somebody asks. Always having a pencil in the car for the cassettes. Old computer games couldn't be won. They just got harder and faster until you died, just like real life. Here's to the kids who never found their name on anything in a souvenir store. I think I only did like one time or something. I really don't think it's fair that my generation had to help our parents use the printer, have to help our kids use the printer. Why can't they just make a printer that works these days? We learned everything we knew about opera from cartoons. The video arcade. Before Gen X, graphics weren't good enough. After Gen X, you'd play the games on your own home console. No other generation claimed the arcades like we did. Please be kind and rewind. Besides having your VCR, how many of you had a tape rewinder? That way it saved wear and tear on your VCR. And coming back to the topic of wood paneling, here's another example of wood paneling on a wall in a house, and a wood paneled TV that always weighed 200 pounds and took 2 people just to move it. The Sony Walkman CD player. Beepers. It felt so important to have one, and even cooler if you paid extra for the voicemail service. I'm old and I'm tired. Please do not play me. Me yelling representative to the automated customer service. I hate those things. I love social media. Back in my day, I had to insult people one at a time. Me at 70 when my grandson sends me a meme and it's one that I made 40 years ago. Bon Jovi over there looking like he's the 5th Golden Girl. This summer's air quality be like the bingo hall in the 80s. I'm at the age where the heated seats in my truck are more about soothing back pain than warming me up. Back in my day, we ate ice cream out of toilet paper rolls and didn't complain. Not only that, it was really good too. If you remember these, your knees pop when you stand up now. Man, those things were great. This was GoFundMe when I was a kid. That and mowing people's yards. When your arthritis medication kicks in and you can finally start knitting again. This meme has actually become its own meme. The cell phones there are like the old Nokias instead of the smartphones we got now. When you're young and you drop something, you just pick it up. When you're older and you drop something, you stare at it for a while, wondering if you actually need it anymore. Who else did this when submitting classwork in school? Growing up, I never knew if I was opening the butter or the leftovers. Flashback to the 70s. Today's kids will never know the struggle of finding something to do. I used to do that all the time when I was a kid. Have you ever seen one of these mowers? Yeah, I've seen one and used it. I've got one right now that I actually bought, cleaned it up, repainted it, restored it, sharpened the blades, and it's ready to use. 9-year-olds want the latest iPhone. When I was 9, I wanted this box of crayons. I don't call it getting old. I call it outliving the warranty. I have to remember this. Kids these days will never know the excitement. They'll also never know the disappointment of all the bad photos that you took. Because you didn't get the instant preview like you do on digital cameras, you just had to take a picture and hope for the best. Who here remembers handwritten report cards? Yeah, I'm taking a pen trying to turn an F into a B. I'm old enough to remember washing dishes in the sink and hanging up laundry to dry. I still do this, because the dishwasher's too expensive and the clothesline is free. I do use the dryer in the winter though. Me after rediscovering old songs that I used to listen to all the time. My sister got Christopher Lloyd to sign my hoverboard. My whole childhood I thought it was illegal to turn on a light in the car while driving. Even if you never had one of these draped over the back of your couch, you knew someone who did. My mom and grandmother both had these. Me at 16. I'm never gonna be like my parents. Me now. Why the hell is every light in the damn house on? You're wasting electricity, running up the bill. Gen X here, and I totally overdo ellipses. What happened in our generation that made us so fond of them? It's like we don't ever want to commit to ending a thought, or we're afraid of run-on sentences. A way of expressing stream of consciousness? It's because we spent years just trailing off when we realized no one was listening to us. I thought this was just me. I use these all the time when I'm writing emails or posting something, but I had no idea they were called ellipses. I just called them 3 dots. Been shortages everywhere and late shipments. Walmart just got a shipment from 1973. The 6-year-old flatly refused to believe that we used to navigate using maps made out of paper. You mean like pirates? As a kid, Sesame Street taught me the value of education, empathy, and kindness. But Bugs Bunny taught me that revenge on my enemies must be quick, clever, and brutal. Sadly, Sesame Street and cartoons of the day has just become another device for child indoctrination. I'm this old. Who remembers what his name was? How they dress girls today? How they dressed me? My toxic trait is that I expect people to have common sense, and I get mad when they don't. Common sense has become a rarity. If this doesn't remind you of your childhood, that sucks. Generation X vision of the future. Millennial vision of the future. Actually, that's more like Gen Z's vision of the future. My son just okay boomered me. I'm Gen X. I will put you in a facial recognition database and then drown you in student loan debt. Ubu Productions. Anyone remember the phrase? Set, Ubu, set. Good dog. Who laid on one of these bad boys as a kid? We always had at least a couple of these. Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon? There was once a time when you could pull up at a traffic light and ask if a person had any mustard. Guarantee you if the generation saw these now, they think it was a real thing. My daughter found my old Walkman, so I left her a note. If you're gonna use this, you gotta start with this. How many of you still do this? There's not really any 6-pack of sodas anymore, but there are some products that have similar packaging, and yes, I do cut them up. The old burn barrel. When you had one of these, the only real trash you had is tin cans. My current barrel's completely burned through. I gotta take it down to the scrap pile and get one of my new barrels and start again. Me realizing that kids talking about the 90s today is the same as us in the 90s talking about the 60s. There is a generation of people who just won't get it, and that is unfortunate. Yes, it is. Here's something that everyone might not know. There was actually 6 sequels to the original movie. The 7th one came out in 2020, which makes 7 movies over the course of 30 years. This kid was born with a suspended driver's license. I don't know why, but that seems like such an accurate description. When was the last time you looked up a number in the phone book? Better yet, when was the last time you had a phone book? What's the first song you would play on these speakers? Today's 7-year-olds have iPhones and Xbox. Me at 7. Crime for older ravers. I don't think this is a real drink, but it should be. I'm coming dangerously close to the age where I start doing puzzles on the dining room table for recreation. Imagine you wake up in the 80s. What is the first thing you would do? Put it in the comments. For me, if it was on a Saturday morning, I'd go into the living room and turn on the TV, turn the antenna over to UHF so I could watch my cartoons. I'm at the age where not finding a parking spot for an event is enough to make me go home. Men pick up a few games, movies, and songs they liked when they were 15 to 25, and then they don't consume any other new media ever again. Why is this slide in here? I'm just on the border between Gen X and the oldest millennials, but my sister is 8 years older than me. We would call the local rock station to request a song, then set her with a tape at the ready to hit record as soon as they played our song. Repeat that about 10 times and you've got your nice mixtape. What if I told you I'm Gen X, and I don't believe anything until you show me the proof? The problem is the proof these days is still made up. Gen Z when the internet goes down. Gen X who have giant DVD collections. Am I getting older, or is the supermarket playing great music? Generation X, 1965 to 1985, the last real great generation. Even in a store on display with the factory seal, I'm still not convinced there are cookies in this tin. I was opening to find out it was my grandma's sewing box. If any of you missed the memo, there's a social media platform that is changing so it's just for Gen X. Because most of Gen Z and most late millennials all claim that they're gonna leave.